While the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa has completed 5 days of hearing into its draft sports broadcasting regulations, the proposed changes would make sports that is deemed of national interest available free to air and on a non-exclusive basis. Now, this would affect the bottom line of many sporting bodies. We've got the PSL, which is strongly opposing the proposed regulations. So for more on this, I'm joined now by ICASA Councillor Palesa Kadi. Palesa, thanks for joining us on Newsnight this evening.
Thank you very much.
You put forward a proposal. You have got a lot of individuals and a lot of organizations that are saying no ways, including the PSL, who say they want to be able to say and be able to make available those, the various programmings to certain constituents and certain broadcasters that may not necessarily be exclusive to the public broadcaster. And in that case, I must ask you, I understand you're acting on behalf of the people, but what was the reasoning for this?
We have looked that since 2010 we have not reviewed the regulations, and there's been quite a number of issues between SAFA and SABC, lack of sports coverage, including your Springboks on SABC. So we've looked at various options, but what happens is that the regulator, ICASA, from time to time reviews its regulations.
So you reviewed your regulations. You're saying that there's a lot of back and forth between, and this is just putting it mildly, between SAFA and the SABC. We've got the PSL now saying that they're opposed to this draft bill, but on the other side of it, you're saying you need to look at the regulations behind it. Does it not come across that you're acting on the SABC's behalf and that you're favoring the SABC against all other channels as well, and broadcasting platforms that are being made available in South Africa?
Ours is about access to sports and broadcasting of that. Well, I think what we need to bring in is the voices and what the regulations are trying to come up with. We've included development and minority sports. We have indigenous sports that we are recommending. And these are draft regulations. It is not about any particular broadcaster, but it's for us to level the playing field through regulation.
But during our conversation just now, you were speaking significantly about the SABC, which you would understand and appreciate. Why is it that it comes across that you're standing and operating on behalf of the SABC, and this is in favor of the SABC having the opportunity to even have some of those, those games that we're speaking about?
It's a free-to-air. It's not a paid TV broadcaster, and that is unfortunately one of the few channels we have for many South Africans to view sports. We have ETV. We also have the newcomer, which is Kwese TV as well. So those are the options that are out there for those who cannot afford to pay for premium sports. Yeah. But what we're looking at is national sports, where one is able to view their national team. And we're saying, how best can we address the matter of the lack thereof? That's when you have Springboks playing, you are unable to view them.
I mean, understandable, because then that becomes an issue of national importance. If you've got Bafana playing, for example, and you're unable to view, then that says a significant portion around the individuals that have got that privilege, and it just seems to be a privileged stance. Then how do you mitigate against advertisers? Where are the advertisers going to go?
In fact, advertisers and sponsors were the missing voice in the past 5 days that we've had in wanting to understand also what is it that they're looking at. Are they looking at numbers versus national interest? Is theirs, when they put up sponsorships or buying this airtime, is the interest really that commercial that we are unable to understand where they stand on the matter? They haven't come up. But what we've seen it's also the lower voices, the voices of the ordinary people. We've had a grade 11 learner. It's the first time in the history of regulation making, having someone, Sandam Gedezi from Pretoria Boys, making his plea, saying that he would like to view sport on an open and a public platform.
Okay, so then let's say that the sport is now being made available on an open and a public platform. Let's take the SABC for the sake of this. That is going to mean a lot of work at the back right? That's going to mean a lot of salaries being paid. That is going to mean mitigating against, number one, what is currently happening. I'm just going to use the public broadcaster simply because you were using it, and it's the public broadcaster. We've got issues right now around payment issues in the public broadcast, the very same SABC that we're speaking about. Then you're saying that, okay, let's put in the work because people have to cover those games, correct? You've got OB vans, you've got people need to cover them, you've got freelancers, there's a whole production that needs to go into covering those. Are you able to mitigate against those issues so that tomorrow, should this go to pass, tomorrow the very same individuals don't come knocking on your door and say, okay, now we're at the SABC, I haven't been paid for work done in the last 4 months, which I'm sure you can appreciate as the ICASA, that has been a growing issue.
The angle that came in the past 5 days was that sometimes, in some instances for the SABC, it's not from lack of capacity or even revenue for that matter. It's when these are given to the SABC in terms of rights or sub-licensed by subscription TV, the timing. Are they, if they are given, Bafana is playing tomorrow and they're given 2 days before, are they even able to leverage on advertising? They're too late. Should they shift generations or any other programming for something that is not guaranteed for revenue? But they also refer to many other issues in terms of the rates regime. How much do sports rights cost in South Africa? They said these are done behind closed doors. And they want to understand that why would particular federations charge them 100 million over any other? So these are some of the deliberations we've had today, and they were saying, open up, let's talk. And it is not the job of the regulator or ICASA, it's for all parties to start talking about this. How much do these rights cost?
Well, I'm sure it is a conversation, Palesa, that is going to be ongoing. I do understand that there has been some backlash. So we know that when it comes to the South African Football Association, PSL, for example, always asking questions around even the mandate of football and do you even understand football? So it is a conversation that you're going to have with all other individuals, but we're going to leave it here this evening.